Welcome to VETS TV. I'm Bill Uren. I'm a retired Marine. I'm joined by Jared Levinson of the Veterans Law Office of Jared Levinson, PC. VETS TV aims to provide valuable information about veterans benefits, other legal services, and business opportunities for military veterans and their family. VETS TV is brought to you by the Veterans Law Office of Jared Levinson, PC, that is dedicated to helping our veterans and their families to obtain their VA benefits and other legal services. Hi, I'm Bill Uren. This is VETS TV. We're here today with a special guest. His name is John Giddy Up Bunch. He's a captain by trade, or his time in the Marine Corps. And he's here to tell you a little bit, and we're here to ask him questions about his program that he has that helps mainly people who are on active duty in the services. And I think you'll find his presentation very interesting, and I'm interested in hearing myself, even though I've read a lot of things about it. Next to me is Jared Levinson, who is our veterans helper here and does the legal work for veterans and the instigator of this program. So why don't we just start off, and we'll ask Captain John to tell us a little bit about his Open Arms program.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thanks for joining us.
You're welcome. Operation Open Arms was started in 2005, and it was started relatively simply. I had no intention of starting a charity. The last thing I ever thought I'd ever do would be the founder of this great charity. But a U.S. forward scout returning to Iraq came up in a restaurant and saw me fishing on a TV show in Florida and asked me where he could go fishing before he went back to Iraq. And when I was in the service and you were deployed overseas, it was one and done and you didn't have to go back. And I was shocked that he had to go return to Iraq within 6 months of just coming home and being wounded and whatnot. So he said, I'm not asking you to go fishing because I can't afford you, but would you tell me where I could go from land? So to make a long story short, I said, be at the restaurant, this waterside restaurant, this coming Saturday at 7 a.m. and we'll go fishing and I won't charge you. And he said, why would you do that? And I just had a chance to look at him, an opportunity to look at him. I said, it's personal. I said, it's just a chance for me to give back to you for what you've done. And I remember being treated rather harshly walking through the D.C. airport by 3 war protesters that I got in a fight with when they defiled my Marine Corps uniform as a young second lieutenant. And I swore on that day that if I could ever make things better for U.S. troops, someday, somehow, I would. And all of a sudden, I flashed back to that encounter at the D.C. airport, and I said, I'll take you fishing Sunday. Bring a guest, and we'll go out and have a good time. And after the fishing trip, it was a perfect fishing trip. Everything magical happened. It seemed like we caught every fish in Florida in one day, in a 6-hour period. And when they got off the boat, he attempted to tip me and reimburse me for gas. I said, no, this is my way. This is my gift to you, Travis. The young man's name was Travis Downs, Specialist Travis Downs. And he was the first Operation Open Arms recipient in 2005. And shortly after it got around that I had asked 5 fishing captain buddies to do the same thing I did for his platoon, and I asked 5 restaurateurs to treat them for meals, and I asked a couple of hotels to give them free rooms. The Today Show descended on Pine Island, this small little island in Florida, in 2005. They ran a special on Operation Open Arms. What a great program it was. And the result of that special found me being the founder of a great charity that's been honored by 2 sitting U.S. presidents. And after that Today Show, we had about 3,000 emails saying, why can't you do this in Norfolk, Virginia? Why can't you do this in Cheyenne, Wyoming?
What were your thoughts, John, when you received all of that response? What was your initial reaction?
My initial reaction was, what have I gotten myself into? And I wasn't prepared for being the founder of a charity. As a matter of fact, for the first 3 years of the charity, I thought to myself, let me do this one more year. Surely the wars will be over. And I supported this charity, returned all donations that came into the charity because I wasn't qualified to take it. So I actually returned $30,000, and there's a great article in the newspapers back in Florida that this charity sends money back plus a thank you note. And I wasn't, and by staying with the charity, each year it seemed like maybe the war will be over in 2006 and I would have served my country again and this will be done. Then 2007 came, it was still going on, and I was supporting the charity through the proceeds of my great fishing charter business. And my friend said, you're going to go broke. So you have to get a board of directors, you have to do an articles of incorporation and form a charity, and that's how the charity was founded.
Now, since that time, how has the charity branched out? What activities have grown from those modest beginnings?
It's almost like, what haven't we done? What haven't we filed out into or expanded to? Within the first month, a U.S. Marine came up to me and said, would you be my witness? Weddings. He said, would you be my witness at the courthouse? And I said, this was a Wednesday. I go back to Iraq on Sunday. And I said, well, why would you want to go to the courthouse when I could probably throw a wedding for you maybe Saturday night? And he said, how on earth would you throw a wedding for me Saturday? And by the time Saturday rolled around, we had a limo, we had a cake, we had a country club, we had a buffet. He had all of his family there, and instead of getting married in the courthouse, so then all of a sudden the press gets a hold of us doing a wedding, a full-blown wedding between Wednesday and Saturday. He has to go back to Iraq on Sunday, and that was our first wedding. And since then we've done 99 free weddings, of which I've planned 79 of. So I'm also a wedding planner, and I do the ministry. Never did I ever dream I'd ever be a minister, trust me. But I do the officiating, the vows for some of these weddings as well.
In all of your experience in doing these things, what have you learned about the needs of our service people? And what have these opportunities to help meant to you as well as to the folks you've been helping?
In 2009, the Department of Defense released a troubling statistic, and it said that perhaps the most important aspect of a U.S. troops tour of service is the R&R, is the rest and recuperation he gets when he comes back, the 1 week or 2 weeks he gets when he comes back. And because we were losing so many of our troops, in 2009 they also released a troubling statistic that we were losing more troops from suicides than from combat operations. So what IBM has been able to do is address the R&R needs for, as of today, 2,548 U.S. troops have enjoyed 1 week or 2 week vacations valued at about $3,000 a week, which costs them nothing. So if you think about what we do as far as providing a free vacation, that's an expense of $3,000 the troops don't have to incur. And when you think about 99 weddings, and maybe our average wedding cost about $16,000 to $17,000 if we were to price everything out, with as little as $90,000 in donations, we've been able to extend to our troops benefits worth $10.8 million.
Let's hold that thought for just a minute. We need to take a short break and we'll return with more VETS TV on MCTV Channel 15 in Easton, Maryland. Thank you.
Tandem Antiques. Customers are surprised by the size of our antique center, our range of quality antiques, parking, and access to the building, and how the room settings are individually displayed to allow customers to visualize pieces in their homes. We offer educational events with knowledgeable speakers to promote interest in antiques to our younger generations, collectors, and antique dealers. We offer an opportunity for new and established customers to become caretakers of a piece of history, which is as green as it gets. Tandem Antiques and Fine Arts Center, located on Route 50, Easton, Maryland.
We're back again with Captain John, and so we're going to have him talk a little more about some of the expanded operations and the fact that he's now up here in Maryland. And I think he ought to tell us a little bit about why he's back in Maryland, and it's become partly his home, because I think the hometown audience here would like to know a little bit about his wife, Jennifer, and so I'd like to have him talk a little bit about how he found her, and then go into some of the other stuff he does for service people through his program, Open Arms.
Well, I'm in Florida. Operation Open Arms is going perfectly, and I actually have my fishing charter. I'm a professional fishing guide in Florida, and I have my fishing charter at Tween Waters Resort, and I see a beautiful woman across the pool with her daughter and her best friend, and I'm thinking to myself, and I verbalized to my fishing charter, somehow, some way, I've got to go meet her. Something just told me that I had to go meet her. So they said, well, what are you going to say? And then Jennifer Shanahan of Oxford gets up with her daughter and best friend to leave. I said, I don't know, but I got to think of it between now and the time she gets up. So I walked over and I thanked her for not calling security, and I introduced myself and told her that I had great personal references, and that if she ever came back to Florida, I would promise her free fishing, free shelling, free dolphin watching, free champagne sunsets. I just laid it on as thick as I could. We dated for 2 years, got married in June 2011, and I thought to myself, why couldn't we have an Operation Open Arms in Maryland? So we're now, because of my wife, I'm up here in Maryland, and we do Operation Open Arms in Maryland and Florida. So we're an approved charity in Maryland with the Secretary of State, and we're doing very well here.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Thank you. It's a lot.
Exactly.
Let us ask you about an important issue, because your organization has been dealing with the issue of PTSD, and in a very interesting way. Could you talk a little bit about your experience in dealing with PTSD and what your organization is doing?
Post-traumatic stress disorder is probably right now the #1 killer of U.S. troops. And in 2009, when this statistic was revealed to me, I actually went out into the community of Fort Myers. I had yet to meet Jennifer at that time, and didn't have any plans to expand to, obviously, to Maryland. But I went out into the community and asked 25 different psychiatrists and psychologists that were qualified in PTSD care to become part of the Operation Open Arms PTSD network. And we were featured on the 2009 Today Show. These psychiatrists would basically say to me, now, John, tell me again why I should do this free when I can charge their TRICARE and get paid. And I said, well, it's a very, very important reason, because when you charge their TRICARE and a mental health visit is recorded, then that gets back to their commanding officer or first sergeant, and all of a sudden their anonymity is compromised. And that is the reason that the PTSD treatment in our military and our VA system, and by the way, Operation Open Arms' PTSD network in Florida has 11 times more qualified PTSD experts than the Fort Myers Veterans Administration. And all of our PTSD experts are licensed in Florida or other states, not in foreign countries. We have a big problem with the PTSD counseling in the military and our VA systems because of qualifications. But ours affords absolute anonymity, and that's why it works.
How about suicides? Have you had some dealings with these kinds of problems? Because I know that there has been a number of articles in Time Magazine and other, of course, television and so forth about suicide rate in the military. And so have you had some dealings with that along with the other mental health things you work with?
We've done a fantastic job with our mental health side of Operation Open Arms. I couldn't be more proud of it. And I think the whole key, once again, gets back to anonymity. There is no charge, there's no copay. And when you don't have the U.S. soldier, Marine, Airman, or Coast Guard, or our Navy, the sailor, if he knows that he can go get mental health therapy without being pigeonholed and without being labeled, then they will seek treatment and be better for it. But right now it seems like Operation Open Arms is the only organization doing that. And maybe that's why we've had 2 U.S. presidents pay tribute to our great charity.
Do you have any thoughts as to why Operation Open Arms is the only group that's doing this particular thing, providing this kind of no-charge mental health counseling for PTSD?
I think what we've done with PTSD has been amazing from the standpoint that we've taken the typical psychological office visit out of the office where there's a psychiatrist behind a desk and there's someone in a chair or a couch, whatever the typical psychiatry type atmosphere is. And what we've done is we've taken our troops and we've put them on a boat, and we use our boat to go out where the dolphins are, where the water is, and we put a psychiatrist on the boat with them, and the world seems to open up to them then. That we've removed one of the biggest stigmas is the office. So we've have a total creative approach to it. It even includes putting a psychiatrist on sailboats. We have volunteers that go there. So it's just a creative approach to get people to come forward. And if we say we're going to take you out on a sailboat, we're going to take you out fishing, but on this trip we'll have a psychiatrist in case you want to talk with them. And so we've done an amazing job with, and we haven't had any losses from anybody that has gone through our counseling program.
So how many people are going out on these boats? 1 or 2 or 4 or 5? Or?
Oh no, they're all. It is all one. It's a one-on-one.
Okay.
One-on-one type thing.
How many service people have gone through the program now?
All told through Operation Open Arms, 2,548 have used the 1-week vacations, and the psychological network is, I'm not supposed to talk about the numbers from a standpoint of it's the
that's
HIPPO part of the,
then that's fine.
But we've had, let's just say that it's been over a couple of hundred.
Okay.
Well, one thing you mentioned that I'd like to touch on, which may is when you and I were in Vietnam, normally you did a year and then you came home. Now these people are doing multiple tours, and what have you found is the ramifications of that? Okay.
I'm not sure that I could properly verbalize what this strain has done for our troops today. You can talk about our troops in World War I, you can talk about our troops in World War II, Vietnam, and the whole thing. And I have an incredible number of friends that served in the military that get upset with me, but it seems to me that these troops that have gone over there and fought these wars, Afghanistan and Iraq, month after month, year after year, sometimes 8 or 9 or 10 deployments. And I wish, if I could wave a magic wand, I wish that all young people either serve 2 years in the service or 2 years in some type of government function where they have a chance to give back to their country. But it seems like the same people are fighting the same war year after year. The strain on their family is absolutely incredible. And to me, the troops of the day are the greatest that our country has ever known.
Well, that's the other thing we've noticed, that there's a tremendous strain on the family, not only the troop who's overseas doing the fighting, but also there's a tremendous strain on the family who's left home here trying to fend for themselves. I know that same strain was on my family when I was overseas, but have you been able to help the families somewhat who are back in your area and so forth?
We have been able to do, one story jumps out at me as far as how, in my opinion, a great charity finds reasons to approve benefits rather than look for reasons to deny them. And Operation Open Arms, we never thought about being in the home improvement business, but a couple of years ago, a U.S. Marine was serving in Afghanistan, and some hoodlums broke into his house while he was serving. His wife had their child off with the mother-in-law, so when the hoodlums broke into the house, they broke everything. They stole what they didn't break. They stole his uniforms. They stole his kids' toys. And as far as helping a family, Operation Open Arms went into this Marine's house and restored every single thing that was broken and made it better than it was before they broke in. Plus, we offered a reward to catch the 3 hoodlums, which we did, and we prosecuted them and put them in jail. So we do have a way of giving back to families, yes.
Yeah, well, I think that's a fantastic thing. Did you want to?
Let me ask you this. With the service folks who are in the PT, and if this violates any privacy issues, you know where the guidelines are better than I in that regard. What has been the response of not only the service people you've helped, but their families? What is the feedback that you get on that?
Well, first of all, I don't think anyone is more grateful than the spouses, because when you come back from a deployment overseas, unless you've been overseas and unless you've been deployed, shot at, the whole thing, no one really understands. And it probably takes 3 to 4 weeks for a serviceman or servicewoman, and by the way, our servicewomen today are fighting right alongside of our servicemen. I try to go to Walter Reed Hospital every Friday and visit our wounded up there. And the number of service women that have been driving trucks, have met a catastrophe with an IED, they are most honorable as well. But I don't think anyone is more pleased that their spouse decides to get treatment more than the spouse, to answer your question. Yeah.
You mentioned about our service women. Have you encountered any special needs or issues with service women that your organization has had to address? Have there been any unique things that have come out of that?
I have found them simply extraordinary. I'm not sure how the metamorphosis or change took place, but I find our women pilots, our women soldiers, our women Marines to be simply extraordinary, and I just don't see that. I went on a U.S. Navy ship, the Mahan USS DDG 72, and women were serving right alongside men on ships, and I can't imagine that, but the Navy figures out a way to make it work, and we've had no issues with our lady servicemen.
The issues are similar, service to service?
Pretty much, yeah, pretty much.
Do you want to have him put in? Would you like to put in a little plug for getting some money? I'd like to have some of the people in this community write a few checks. Talbot County is pretty good about charity work. My wife does a lot of charity work here, and the Talbot County is pretty good about writing checks. So I'd like you to put a little plug in for your operation, because it seems to me it would be good for us to help, because this war is, while it's winding down, we all know that there's another one right around the corner. So, and these guys, even if they're not at war, are being deployed overseas and away from their family, and obviously need some help. Being a former Marine myself, I know that Marines and airmen and soldiers and sailors are, and Coast Guard men are all, and women are in fact always deployed. So this help that he's been able to, and your organization has been able to give, I think is important. And I would certainly ask the public to take check in hand and write it to his organization, and I think it would be really a good help, and I think it would be put to some really good use.
Well, Operation Open Arms has been able to realize about $90,000 worth of donations in 8 years, and we've returned on that $90,000 $10.8 million in benefits. So if someone contributes $100, basically what we're able to do with that is, since we don't pay any salaries, and my home is the Operation Open Arms office, and I assume basically all overhead for the charity, we're able to take our funds and apply those funds. $100, for instance, gets 2 U.S. troops out with a boat captain. The psychiatrist comes aboard free. We reimburse the boat captain for $50 of gas. So if you take, for instance, our weddings, we throw a $17,000 or $18,000 wedding for $2,000, because so many of the benefits are, say, we'll do that free, but there are certain things we can't get free, like limos, cakes, things like that. So when we aren't paying a director of a charity, I still throw a cast net and clean fish for a living. I earn my money not through this charity as some founders of charities or directors of charities do, and they pay these high salaries. We have no salaries at Operation Open Arms, so we're able to use what money we get to, for instance, for these gentlemen that came in, we were able to treat them to the Tidewater Inn and buy them dinners. So
for the TV audience, he's holding up a part of the Star Democrat that I cut out that dealt with this, bringing some Marines in here and helping them out. And I know, for example, the Tidewater Inn helped them out. One of the guys at the Tidewater is a former Air Force guy, and so I think that was one of the connections there. And there was a number of other connections
absolutely.
Also.
Yeah.
And for the PTSD program, you're always looking for some providers?
Thank you. We are looking. We would love to have more psychiatrists, more psychologists, anyone. And one of the great things about Operation Open Arms, and I mentioned to this earlier, and when you do that, you think you've already talked about it. But Operation Open Arms, if you've never served your country, or if you've served your country and you'd like to serve again, that's really what this charity is about. So if you've never served your country and you're a psychologist or a psychiatrist, and you have a chance to offer 2 hours a month, okay, usually there's quite a few hours in each week and quite a few hours a month, but if you could just devote 2 hours to Operation Open Arms for a therapy session, go out on a boat, provide the things we need, that gives you a feeling, an amazing feeling of wholeness, that you did something that you really didn't have to do, and you went out of your way to do it to help someone that desperately needs something. And I can't stress how much we need psychiatrists and psychologists here in Maryland.
What number could those folks call if they wanted to get in touch with you?
You could go to the Operation Open Arms website, www.operationopenarms.org. We're a registered 501c3 public charity in Maryland and Florida, and all the contact information is there. My phone number, my personal number, you can call me personally and sign up, is 239-822-8888.
John, Giddy Up Bunch, thank you very much, and keep up the good work.
It's a pleasure.
Thank you.
Pleasure, sir.
Thank you for watching VETS TV, and we appreciate John Giddy Up Bunch and all the good work he's doing on behalf of our active military members, and we thank you for watching VETS TV on MCTV Channel 15 in Eastern Maryland. Have a good day. Thank you.